as we go through. But perfect. I think we should be all good to jump into the webinar now. Yeah, as mentioned, what we'll be doing today, running through the training register product that we have. We do also have, we're going to be given a sneak peek today at our e-learning integration that will be coming hopefully in a few months' time. So we'll be going into that towards the end, be able to show the prototype, and Arena, who is the genius behind the product, will be able to answer any of your questions there as well. But perfect. Hopefully everyone should be able to see my screen. If you can't, feel free to write a message into the chat. But this, as you can see, is the Hands HQ training register. Now, just a little bit of background about Hands HQ. So originally we were a risk assessment and method statement software. I'm sure there's many of you on here today that are actually using our RAMS product. But essentially about 2 years ago, a lot of our customers were screaming out for us to streamline and change the way and update the way that they're tracking and managing their training in the same way that we did with their RAMS. So we created the training register. At first, it was created as a bolt-on product. But around about this time last year, we had a lot of interest from principal contractors, manufacturing businesses, schools, councils, those that don't really need to write as many RAMs or don't have as much the need to write as many RAMs, but still have staff and employees that need to track training for. So we made a lot of updates to the system. Now, not only does it integrate with the RAM side of the Hands HQ, but it also acts as a standalone product as well. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. So as you can see, when you first log into the training register, first page that you come to is your sort of personnel library. This is where all of your different personnel, all of your different employees, their sort of accounts, their profiles will live. We'll be going into their profiles towards the end, but I'll just break down what this sort of main screen, this main dashboard means. So obviously we've got our chart on the left-hand side here, red, amber, green, which I'm sure many of you are using at the moment. So anything green means that the training is currently up to date. Anything red means that training has expired, and anything orange means that within the next 60 days, a training course is due to expire. So what will happen when an individual's training has gone from green to orange? Let's say Ellie, for example, Ellie's training was up to date. However, as that training course goes 60 days before it's due to expire, an email notification will be sent out to Ellie to say your asbestos awareness course is due to expire within the next 60 days. You'll also receive timely notifications throughout as well. So 6 days before, a month before, a week before, and a day before, I think it is as well. So you're going to be getting those multiple notifications to inform you that training is due to expire. You are also able to set up weekly report emails that will be sent out to you. So at the beginning of every week, Monday morning, a report would be sent out, which sort of gives a full overview of your training register, who's up to date and whose training is due to expire in the next sort of 60 days. So you're always sort of, rather than, it's very proactive. You don't necessarily have to always go into the system, find an hour, 2 hours at a time to sort of check every single cell. It's going to proactively send you those notifications and keep you on top of the training register. You've got the ability to obviously filter between those expired, up to date. You can also filter between employees and subcontractors. So it's really handy this. Not only can you obviously have your employees in here, but your subcontractors too. You do also have the ability to archive any of your personnel. So especially if you have any subcontractors that might work for you for a year, 2 years, then they disappear. But actually, you know that you're going to bring them back again in 2-3 years' time to work for you on another similar project. Rather than actually deleting them from your matrix forever, you can then just archive them and restore their details as and when you need to. The handy aspect of being able to archive them is that you won't be receiving the notifications as and when their training is due to expire. Perfect. Before we jump onto and have a look at some of the profiles, we'll have a look at a few of the different tabs that we have up here. So let's jump into the roles tab. Now, this is just a sort of a bird's eye view of all of the different roles, a list of all of the different roles that you have at the business. Once again, we've got our color code in here too, essentially just telling us that maybe a person or multiple individuals that carry the electrical engineer role currently have training which is expired. So when we jump into this, it's really handy if, you know, if a client ever turns around and says, right, I need you to send down an electrical engineer down to site today. We're able to then see who at the business is electrical engineer and whose training is up to date. So we can sort of figure out who would be best sent down to that site or not. So we can see here that we've got a bunch of individuals whose training is up to date. So Vicky's training is up to date. Both Ellie and Ben's training is due to expire in the next 60 days. And then the 4 members of the team up at the top, their training needs to be updated. We can also see what courses align to that role. So essentially what we're doing here is our training needs analysis. We are saying that to be a compliant electrical engineer at our business, these are the 6 core competencies that an individual must have to be sort of compliant or to be up to date, to be able to go on site based on our rules at the business as well. So yeah, it's really straightforward, really easy to be able to link up those courses. So essentially what will happen, and we'll go through this shortly, when you add a brand new individual to your training register, to the training matrix, and you select a role, you say, right, this person's joining their electrical engineer. As standard, these core competencies and courses will be pulled through for you to update. Really straightforward, easy to add a brand new role. You can just do that through here. Now, if we move along to our next tab, we come to our course register. This is essentially a library of all of the different courses that we sort of track and manage across the business. Once again, we've got our different color code in here as well. So if we were to go into first aid at work, for example, we can see all of our details for our first aid at work course. So that renewal frequency, whether the evidence is required. So that essentially means it's going to flag up if we don't upload a certificate to this. So at the moment, this is not required, but let's say an asbestos awareness course, for example, we need as standard the evidence, the certificate to be uploaded to the system. You can then also see who at the business, what personnel currently carries that course, and then also what roles that is aligned to as well. So once again, our sort of training needs analysis at this point. Really straightforward to add a brand new course. We do have a sort of standard library in the background with a bunch of different courses. If you know, the course that you're after isn't actually within the system, it's really straightforward, really easy for you to add a brand new course. So if I just go into here, you can see got a bunch of different courses. But if I just wanted to add a new course, so if we were to call it new course, for example, then it will just take you through the process to be able to add that course, decide whether there's an expiration date on it or not. Yes, it is. So every year our personnel have to update this course, run through a refresher. We can also say whether it requires evidence or not, and then also align it to those different roles, as we said earlier, about the sort of training needs analysis. So we then also have our subcontractors tab. You can fill this up with a bunch of different subcontractors. Then you're able to click into here and see which of our individuals at the business actually are from that subcontractor. Feel free to throw in any questions that you have at the moment based on a few of those tabs. Happy to answer some of your questions as we go through. But yeah, let's jump into having a look at some of these sort of profiles, which I'm sure is what everyone's interested to see and how this actually works. Let's add a brand new person to our company. Let's add Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs has decided to kind of work for us. We can then also decide whether they are an employee or a subcontractor. We can then also select a role for that individual. So let's say that they are a health and safety manager. We've also got the ability to add in different information for them here. I believe there is a option that's coming out at some point soon where you can add sort of custom fields to these individuals as well. So let's add Steve to the library. Once again, Steve is our health and safety manager. So if we add personnel, we can then search for Steve. We can see Steve up at the top here. So when we go into Steve's profile, because we've already created that sort of training needs analysis, and we've said, right, to be a compliant health and safety manager at our business, these are the 5 core competencies that you must have. So when we add Steve to the system, as standard, those courses are now going to be pulled through. It may be the case that Steve's joining from an old business and therefore actually he's already got a lot of these certificates ready to go. There may be a couple that we need to send and add bookings for. So I can show you how we do that. So let's say our first aid at work, Steve's actually bringing this certificate from a other organization where he worked beforehand. So we can actually add our start date. Let's say Steve got this back at the beginning of June. We can then set the expiry date as 3 years from today. That is the standard sort of renewal frequency. You can also add a custom date if you wanted to. So you can add your notes. You might want to write in here, achieved at previous business. And then also you've got the ability to upload your evidence in here as well. Really straightforward to upload any evidence. It's a case of just finding the example. Appreciate this is a NEBOSH, it's slightly wrong. But just as an example, we can then upload our certificates here as well. So really straightforward to do that, which we can then record training. That's now going to turn into green. If there's anything that actually isn't live at the moment, or Steve's missing that training, we can actually add the booking through the system as well. So we can come here and say, right, we want to add booking. We could decide the date of when that booking has been made for. So let's say, okay, that booking is at the end of this month, and also be able to add any booking notes, which we can then do through here. So we can now see that we've actually made an action against that course to show that, okay, it's been booked for the 31st of August. There is also going to be email notifications that go with this as well. I believe an email would be sent to Steve the day before to say, don't forget about your training tomorrow, essentially, as well. Irene, have we got any questions at all?
Yes, we got one about the ability to add in bulk training records from other systems on a regular basis. So at the moment, our CS team will be happy to help you do that. But we're also working on making this an automatic process, as this is a really highly requested feature from our clients. So yeah, we'll be adding this functionality at some point.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so what we're doing at the moment for anyone that sort of joins, we do have a CS team that sort of works in the background that is able to sort of put together your system for you, take some of that information and do that sort of data migration for you. So they'll be able to sort of add in all of your roles, courses, and then it's just a case of adding those names and then aligning the sort of certificates up and updating it. Perfect. So if we just go back to our personnel page, going to jump into a separate account. Let's find myself. So if we then jump into this is my sort of Blue Peter moment, one that I made earlier, a profile where all of the training is currently up to date. We can see all the certificates in here. That's not me, just so you know. We can then also, see all of our different certificates, our evidence that we've uploaded into the system. You do also have the ability to show your training history. I appreciate that a lot of the time with your Excel spreadsheets, from year to year, when a training course is updated and renewed, most of the time you'll end up just sort of deleting the old record and updating it with the new, but you've lost all of that sort of past sort of audit trail of the past certificates and past training. I'm sure you'll probably be able to dig those out somewhere within your servers, within your emails and so on. But this is just a really easy way to be able to track old certificates and history of training as well. On top of that, you do also have a full activity tab. Once again, to make that audit process really straightforward, really easy. You can see exactly when, who, and what changes had been made to a personnel's records as well. So another thing to mention here also is you do have obviously that training needs analysis, the standard core training that you need to be a health and safety manager, but you can also add additional training as well. So this might be like nice to have training outside of your sort of like day-to-day role. So it's really sort of easy to add those training. You can decide whether they're required or not. So you can actually say whether they're going to show up red when they go out of date or not. That's completely up to you when you add those in. So on here also, we've got this button which says download training report. Now, essentially what this is, and I know more and more at the moment, especially sort of after COVID and so on, clients have sort of amped up looking over, reading RAMs and asking for training records of those individuals that come into their site. So we've created this report that you can download based on those individuals that are going to that job. So if your client ever turns around and says, right, you're sending Joe Blogs down to site today, could you please provide evidence of all of the training that this individual has? All you would need to do is hit this button here, which is download training report, decide what information you would like included in this document, and it's actually going to create for us this PDF document with all of the different training courses, start and end dates of those courses, and also a snippet of the certificate as well. You've got the ability to add multiple images. So if you wanted the front and the back of a card, then you can do that as well. But yeah, just a really quick, easy way to be able to download this as a PDF document and send off to your clients. So this is where the sort of integration with the RAMS side of the system will happen as well. Because when you create your RAMS document and you select the different personnel that will be going to that site, it would then pull off, and you've got the ability actually to pull off at that point every single individual at that site and their training records. You can also decide and send them, distribute them straight out to your clients alongside your RAMS document as well. I can see a couple of notifications here. Do we have any other questions at all, Irina, to answer at the moment?
Yes, we do have a question regarding whether it's possible to authenticate users against an external identity provider, such as Microsoft or some other single sign-on options. So at the moment, you can add as many users and as many personnel as you want, and they can select their own password or something that they would be able to log in with. But we're also working on adding different single sign-on solutions as well, so that will also be coming soon. Yeah, and another question was from Ian, which is the report that Mason, you were just showing, whether we can do a similar report for courses rather than individuals.
Good question. Do we have that functionality at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment, if you go to courses, you can see how many personnel has been added to that course. So if you have selected that this person has to take that course, you can see that there. We cannot generate a report based on that at the moment, but that is a really good request. And yeah, thanks, Ian, for raising it.
What we do have in terms of sort of other reports that you're able to pull off the system, which may work for you, Ian, and actually answer your question here. We've got the ability to download a training matrix. Essentially, the reason why we've added this into the system is when we created the training register, a lot of our clients said, you know, this is all well and good, it's amazing, it's saving us a lot of time. However, as part of our sort of accreditations, submitting for accreditations or tender processes or audits, you still need to at some point actually have a training matrix. So what this is actually going to do, all of that information that we've added into the system, it will then be pulled off into a Excel spreadsheet like so. So something similar to probably what you're running at the moment. But from here, you can obviously manipulate the sort of content information that you need to it here. So you'll probably be able to see here how many different individuals have taken what courses as well. So hopefully that might sort of answer your question in terms of the report that you need there as well. Great. So that's pretty much a sort of a whistle-stop tour of the training register itself. Obviously, at the beginning, I mentioned that we do have a new integration which is coming soon, which is our e-learning integration. We are partnering up with iHasco. So we're going to have the ability to actually integrate with their e-learning courses, which you can then pull through into Hands HQ, book, and actually distribute those courses out to different members of your team. I've got a prototype, quite excitingly, which I can show you through now. So essentially, the way that this is going to work, and obviously this looks very similar to what we're looking at the moment. We are in Rebecca Cole's profile at the moment. We can see at the top the asbestos awareness, and the rest of the courses are all green. As I said before, when a course turns from green to amber, it means that within the next 60 days, that course is due to expire. So we can see now that this is within that 60-day window. It's now turned to amber. Obviously, email notifications would have been sent out to say that this is due to expire soon. What we're then going to have the ability to do is for certain courses, we can see that this button on the right-hand side here under bookings will show up, which is enroll online. You'll essentially have a bunch of credits. These credits will be, one credit will be a course. We can then enroll Rebecca onto the asbestos awareness course like so. We can now see that Rebecca has been enrolled. So an action has been made against that expiring competency. An email will then be sent to Rebecca, which would look like so. You'd then have the ability just to select take course, which would be really straightforward to do so. And then it'll pull you through to this page. So this is essentially the start of the e-learning course. As with any sort of e-learning course, you're going through the process, watching a few videos. There might be a quiz. And then to finish, you'll then have a test. So you run through the test, answer the questions. We'll see in this case, it's multiple choice. And then you'll end up with your score. So in Rebecca's case, top of the class, 14 out of 14, 100%. And then what will happen usually at this point with e-learning is a case of downloading that certificate and then sending it off to your line manager or sending it off to the training individual to actually then find the place where it needs to go and upload the records on your spreadsheet, your expiry date, new expiry date, and then save the course elsewhere. But actually what's going to happen, automatically, everything is going to be updated within the app. So we can now see that this is turned back to green. The expiry date is updated and we've got a brand new certificate for that day, our asbestos awareness course. So it's really straightforward, really easy to update all of that information and everything happens automatically for us as well. So yeah, that's the e-learning integration. We do have a page on our website dedicated to this. I think Irina will be able to pop the link into the chat now. But we do have a section where you're able to join the waiting list. So for any news updates, also early access. So as and when the product is sort of created and ready to go, we are giving those that sign up early access to be the first ones to be able to sort of jump onto the system and use that as well. I don't know if there's anything else to add there, Irina, around this.
If you'd like to have an early access to our new e-learning integration, that'll be just the first step for you to make, and just sign up there, and we'll be able to let you know as soon as possible as we have any news or updates or anything like that. So yeah, make sure you subscribe.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Irina. So yeah, that's a very sort of quick tour of the training register. Appreciate we're pretty much bang on time now. We said that we'd be finishing off at 1:30. So I think we've got some time just for a couple more questions. Hopefully you've been able to see just how easy the process for tracking and managing training can be. It doesn't have to be a headache with Excel. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to throw in some sort of final questions. Happy to obviously give everyone a call today, answer any sort of questions that you may have. So if there's anything very specific to you, then we can get in touch. Obviously, pricing, I'm sure, is going to be a big question for everyone. Pricing can differ depending on whether you're using Hands HQ already at the moment, or if whether you're using our system at the moment for RAMs, or whether it would be a standalone product, also differ between the number of users that you'd need to track. So happy to give each of you a sort of independent quote each, depending on your requirements. Yeah, we've got a question in Q&A.
There was a question answered, but essentially it was whether archive personnel counts as a part of the license. So no, only active personnel counts as a part of your license. So you can archive people you no longer need, or maybe you have some subcontractors that you only use like once a year or once every season. So you can, go ahead and archive them and just unarchive them whenever you need them again. Perfect.
Thanks, Rena. I'm just seeing a message from Ian as well. A question from Ian. Thanks for the question, Ian, about sort of different levels. Yeah. So what you're able to do with training. So essentially for everyone else, Ian's question is, do you have the ability to add multiple roles, but for some of the roles, maybe some training courses aren't as important as others? So what you're able to do, and I'll quickly be able to show you actually, if we were to go into my account down here, we can see that I am a health and safety manager by trade. That's my job. It's not actually, so don't ask me any safety related questions. But we can see here that I'm a health and safety manager, but we can also add additional training. So if we were to come into here and let's say the training course was, I don't know what we've got, this dump truck training as an example, we can decide whether it's required or not. If it is required, it's always going to send us those notifications out as and when training is due to expire. If it's not required, then if it does expire, my account isn't essentially going to turn up red to show that I've got something outstanding. We can also decide whether it's taken place. If we just say no, then it would just show up as grey. So it doesn't register between either being red or green at this point. So yeah, it's not going to send us those notifications, and my account is still going to be green, and up to date, as we can see here. Hopefully that's answers your question, Ian. But yeah, you are able to add additional training and essentially say whether it's required or not as part of that role. Perfect. We've got a couple more minutes happy to stay on for a few more minutes if anyone's got any other questions. If not, I'll be happy to give everyone a call over the next day or this afternoon and maybe tomorrow morning as well to answer any of your questions and give you an idea on price as well. But otherwise, it looks like most of the questions have already been answered. And thanks very much, everyone, for jumping on. I'll let you all get back to your busy weeks. I'm sure, you know, it's midweek, so I'm sure you've got either a lot to catch up on or a lot to do before the end of the week. But once again, thanks very much for joining. We'll be running in a few weeks' time another RAMS demo. So if you haven't seen our RAM side of the system and want to see how this integrates with our risk assessment and method statement software, then feel free to join that as well. We're happy to give a more sort of one-to-one demo and look into some of the bits of the system in some more detail, some of the features as well. But yeah, thanks very much, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. Once again, feel free to sign up to the training register sort of updates for the e-learning. And as and when we have any updates and early access, we'll be getting in touch. But yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.